Hello and welcome to episode 2 of One More Music Pod. What's going on, Jack?
Oh, I see what you did there.
Now, I don't think many would argue that today's artist is one of the greatest soul musicians of all time. Marvin Gaye helped define the sound of the 1960s, earning the title Prince of Motown.
With a career spanning over 3 decades, Marvin Gaye is best known for iconic hits like How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You, Ain't That Peculiar, and of course, I Heard It Through the Grapevine. And in 1971, he released a record which many see as his greatest work. This is What's Going On.
Welcome, everyone, to the second episode of One More Music Pod. I'm Adam.
And I'm Jack.
Today, we're diving into one of the greatest soul albums of all time, What's Going On by the legendary Marvin Gaye.
This album not only changed the landscape of soul music, but also had a lasting influence on artists across genres, from Lauryn Hill to Kendrick Lamar.
Let's get into it.
Right on. Right then, here we are, episode 2. Adam, it's lovely to see you again, as always. How are you?
I'm very well, Jack. Lovely to see you.
How's your week been?
Not bad, you know. Not much exciting, to be honest. My car passed its MOT.
Oh, brilliant.
Which, at my age, is huge news.
Always a big relief, isn't it?
Always a relief, yeah, to get that phone call to say that everything is hunky-dory. And I've got the dentist next week.
Ooh,
so it is that's the next moment that I need to get through. But yeah, apart from that, literally nothing has happened.
Good stuff.
What about yourself?
I've been faffing around with my drain pipe again this week. Not a euphemism.
Not a euphemism. No, just clarify that.
Yeah, just having this leak in my flat that I had to get the plumber around again to come and sort it out. But it's okay though, because I've had the lovely soothing tones of Mr. Marvin Gaye to keep me company this week.
Nice. So this week, music-wise, Jack, what have you been listening to?
Well, Haim are a band that I've always been quite into, and they've got a new song out at the moment, so I've been checking that out. Big fan of their first album that came out probably about 10 years ago now.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm assuming this new single will be a prelude to an album at some point, so I'll keep an eye out for that. Other than that, still listening to Doechie's album, which is a few months old now. Sort of an old school sort of hip hop feel to that one, which I do like. Nissan Ultimate is a personal favourite track of mine, so I'd recommend you giving that one a listen, Adam.
I will do. Thanks, Jack. Yeah.
How about you, Adam?
Well, I'm a big fan of The National, as you know, and the lead singer Matt Berninger has been like teasing his new material. Okay. He's got a new album coming out, so I've been listening to his new single Bonnet of Pins.
Oh, okay.
Which is a very nice song. It's a bit like The National, I guess, but quite stripped back. Some really nice female vocals on there as well. And I've noticed that he is playing in Manchester fairly soon, so I might snap up some tickets for his Manchester date.
That sounds exciting.
I've also recently purchased some tickets to go and see a production of Hamlet. So very highbrow.
Yeah, look at you.
I know, look at me. But actually, it's really interesting that it's backed by Radiohead's album Hail to the Thief.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm really interested to see how they're going to do that.
Yeah, how are they going to like merge those two together? Then?
Yeah, because it's quite a haunting album, isn't it? I guess, and it's quite a haunting play. So I guess both of them do mark quite together.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know how that goes.
I will do.
And of course, we're recording this today on Saturday morning, and this afternoon we're off out to a little music festival, aren't we?
We are, yeah. So local town, Congleton Unplugged, are doing their annual music festival. So a combination of, I guess, a bit of everything, really.
Very much looking forward to it. We're going to go and check out a few bands, have a few beers. I think it'll be a good day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just before we get into the episode, do remember to give us a follow on @onemoremusicpod on Instagram, and you can always contact us at onemoremusicpod@gmail.com.
So Jack, we've had an idea, haven't we?
We have indeed.
During the week we had a discussion, and we are going to set each other a challenge. And in the spirit of this episode, we've both given each other an album, a soul-related album that we are neither of us are familiar with.
Yeah, so the idea is like it'll be an album that I like, that I'm going to recommend to you, and you're going to do the same for me, so we can kind of find some new music and discover some new artists and bands.
Yeah, definitely. So in the spirit of this episode, you've tasked me to listen to the exciting Wilson Pickett album by Wilson Pickett.
Yes, and you've given me I Never Loved a Man the Way I Loved You by Aretha Franklin.
Classic.
So let's talk about the Aretha Franklin one first. Now, for me, as soon as I put this on, it's such an iconic and recognisable voice, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
you know exactly who you've got here.
Yeah, definitely.
She had this voice to her that just sounded like nothing else out there. And the album starts, of course, with Respect, which is one of her, well, maybe probably is her biggest song.
Yeah, and I think most people would associate her with that song, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it's such an iconic song, and it kind of sets the album off so well. Obviously, that's the standout track on the album. I also really loved the song Good Times on there. A real classic 12-bar blues number. I mean, who doesn't enjoy a good 12-bar blues?
It's just what we all strive for, isn't it?
Yeah, effortlessly cool guitars and piano. Same for the song Save Me. I really enjoyed that one. And then there's a song called A Change Is Gonna Come, which really highlights the strength and range of her voice. So yeah, I really enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah, and I need like it. And obviously you're familiar with the artist beforehand, weren't you? But I think you'd not listen to the album in full.
No, I'd never listened to that. I mean, I think I'm like a lot of people. I know Aretha Franklin for the big hits like Respect. So I knew that song, but yeah, the rest of it was new to me. And yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think this album, for me personally, it does cement Aretha Franklin as the greatest female soul artist of all time. Big call, Jack, or would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I mean, there are a few other names you think of, maybe like Donna Summers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, Aretha's kind of right up there.
Yeah,
Isn't she?
she is for me, and I think this album in particular was a quite a defining moment for her as an artist and her kind of evolution. As I say, as a soul artist.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned Respect being one of your favourites on that album, Jack. Do you know who actually wrote that song?
I don't actually know. Enlighten me.
It was Otis Redding.
Oh wow! Okay,
Yeah,
brilliant.
so a little bit of a fun fact. For you there, Jack.
another legend of soul music.
Yeah,
there.
definitely.
So yeah, let's move on. I recommended an album that I personally really like, The Exciting Wilson Pickett. He's one of my favourite soul singers and obviously a major name in the rise of soul music. Tracks such as Mustang Sally and Everybody Needs Somebody to Love. And on this album, for me, I really love the first song, Land of a Thousand Dances. It's just so catchy. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, likewise. I'd recognise his voice, but I couldn't necessarily put a name to his voice. So it was really nice to find out who he actually was and listen to one of his albums in full. First thought, it's just dancing music, isn't it? It really is. It's such high energy dancing music,
absolutely.
and every track is high energy. And I think the tracks kind of seamlessly blend into a number of different genres, really: blues, R&B, and gospel. And because of the nature of the music and the energy in the music, I went straight to YouTube and I'd look at some of his performances, and it's amazing. Really, he just doesn't stop, does he?
Yeah, he's so energetic. He's got kind of a James Brown sort of feel.
I was thinking the exact
same. Stage presence. Yeah, so
definitely.
much energy. I did wonder, perhaps maybe one or two nose beers were partaken before going on
Possibly,
stage.
yeah, possibly. The way he was thrusting those hips, I would suggest nose beers were a part of that performance.
So yeah, two really enjoyable albums, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And again, if you haven't listened to these albums, or you maybe have listened to them and you want to give us your thoughts, do let us know on Instagram.
Again, it's at onemoremusicpod on Instagram or onemoremusicpod@gmail.com.
So, Jack, in our last episode, Is This It? By The Strokes, you were given a task, weren't you? Your task was to give me a link between the album Is This It and this week's album What's Going On.
Yeah, and I was initially thinking that's going to be a bit of a struggle, but I have to say I've absolutely struck gold on this one.
You have. You've nailed it, and annoyingly, you've done really well. And I think when I gave you that task, I was kind of laughing internally.
Yeah, you were kind of setting me up for a fall, I think.
I was,
really.
yeah.
But turns out on the Marvin Gaye album What's Going On, track 6 is a song called Mercy, Mercy Me, which in 2006 was covered by a band called The Strokes.
Yep.
Can
well
you
done.
believe it? Yeah.
Well done.
So, it was released as the B-side to their single You Only Live Once, which was off their First Impressions of Earth
Great album. Very good album.
Yeah, the track also features Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age doing the drums alongside Fabrizio Moretti. So two drummers on this track. And Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam also does the vocals alongside Julian Casablancas. And I thought, what a random collaboration that was.
Yeah, very random. And when you sent me the YouTube link to the song, literally within I think we finished recording on Saturday. We released the album on the Monday. I think that afternoon, or it might have been the Tuesday morning, you sent me that link, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
You were so happy with yourself.
I just got so excited. I was like, I was thinking this is going to be an absolute struggle, but then literally the first thing I looked up was this song, and it was, just absolutely made my week.
Annoying.
Yeah,
really annoying. And when I first listened, because it is a good track, but when I first listened to it, I didn't really pick out Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam. I guess it's because I'm not really a fan. I've not listened to a great deal of their stuff.
Yeah.
So to me, he's not a recognisable voice.
Yeah, fair enough. And I was sort of looking into it, and I think Eddie Vedder was kind of quite friendly with the guys in the Strokes at the time, and he'd played a few gigs with them. So that's kind of how this collaboration came together. And then Josh Homme just seems to appear on all sorts. He's on everything, isn't he?
He's everywhere.
Yeah,
he's everywhere. That guy. Yeah.
Great. So that's how I got on. And I massively doubt it, but if anybody out there thinks they know a better link, then we would love to know. Get in touch with us at onemoremusicpod on Instagram or onemoremusicpod@gmail.com.
Please find a better link than Jack's.
Okay, so before we get into the album itself, let's have a look at the background and kind of the time period. So the 1970s was a huge decade of transition with cultural, political and economic shifts. With the tumultuous 1960s coming to an end, the country very much struggled from the fallout from previous social movements, the Vietnam War, political scandals, and a changing global and domestic landscape. So, this was kind of a time of quite big change, wasn't it? Social issues, social rights. We'd just come out of Vietnam. So it was kind of a turbulent era, really, wasn't it?
I think it's important we consider these things. It definitely influenced the album, didn't it? When we were listening, we were kind of picking out points within the album, and it kind of really reflects what was happening at the time.
Absolutely, yeah. So at the time, the US was grappling with a situation known as stagflation.
Jack, stagflation. Do you know what that means?
I have to say, I've never heard of that.
Well, I'll enlighten you. So it's a period where an economy experiences both high inflation and high employment.
Oh, okay.
So you can see that the impact that this would have had, particularly on those returning from the Vietnam War. So veterans that were returning from the war. So they felt quite a lot of strain because of the kind of the state of the economy at the time.
Yeah. So you look at like the veterans who kind of sacrificed so much in this war. They were coming back to a country that had very little prospects, weren't they? They would have turned to sort of music and art and film and stuff to kind of lift their spirits.
And they felt, I guess, quite socially excluded because the war, as a lot of people know, wasn't particularly popular. So not only had you had the issue of actually getting a job, but you also had a lot of the population had a certain attitude towards these veterans.
That's a good point, actually. Like, this wasn't the same as World War II. Like, they weren't coming back as the conquering heroes, were they? They were kind of,
outcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
To some extent, yeah. In terms of other aspects of culture at the time, there was a bit of a shift really in the 1970s, and music played a really pivotal role in this. And disco was an emerging genre at the time, and in fact, it dominated the music culture in America at the time. Artists like the Bee Gees, Donna Summer, and Gloria Gaynor ruled the charts.
I've seen you out on the dance floors many times doing your disco moves. You love it, don't you?
Grooving, hitting those moves. You know what my moves are like, Jack. Yeah, nobody can compete when I'm going.
Old snake hips.
That's what they call me in. That's what they call me in town.
So perhaps it was the sense of freedom the music embodied, offering an escape and a celebration of self-expression.
And at the same time, not only was music changing, but kind of social norms and values were undergoing quite significant changes at the time. So things like the sexual revolution was in full swing, really challenging traditional views, those conservative views around sexuality and relationships. Alongside that, the growing acceptance of homosexuality, the widespread use of birth control, and the rise of the feminist movement really signalled a new era of personal freedom.
And then the pop culture of the time. So Hollywood saw a renaissance in the 1970s. We had directors like Martin Scorsese, Stanley Kubrick, and Francis Ford Coppola all directing groundbreaking films. So we had films like The Godfather, Jaws, Star Wars, Taxi Driver. I mean, the list could go on. Any favourites for you there, Adam?
Yeah, so when I was doing a little bit more digging into this kind of this time period in terms of films, films like Star Wars, A Clockwork Orange, Alien, all of those films came out in the 1970s, and they are some of my favourite films. What about you?
Absolutely, just some absolutely iconic films there. I mean, yeah, Star Wars. For me, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest stands out for me. The Jack Nicholson film, that's a great one. Apocalypse Now, Mean Streets, another great sort of gangster film. And of course, Blues Brothers, which technically that was released in 1980.
Okay,
I'll give you
that one, it's fine.
But it is an absolutely brilliant film. And I mention it because it features music from the likes of, Sam and Dave, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, and of course, Marvin Gaye. It's a brilliant showcase of soul music. So yeah, really, really good film that was.
Okay, Jack, I guess we have to define what soul music actually is, don't we, before we start talking about the album itself. So soul music is a genre of popular music that emerged in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Really originating in African American communities in the US, it is often characterized by a blend of gospel, rhythm and blues, and jazz influences. Soul artists are known for their powerful and expressive vocal performances, often conveying a sense of raw emotion. I think we really saw that in this album, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Soul music is often designed to be danced to, with catchy rhythms and strong beats. Quite often, soul songs will explore themes of love, relationships, and social issues.
Yeah, and so some of the notable soul musicians that were around in that era, alongside Marvin Gaye, the likes of Ray Charles, Sam Cooke, Stevie Wonder, Otis Redding, some absolutely huge names there.
Yeah, definitely.
Sam and Dave, they're a personal favourite of mine, so Soul Man is a great song. Aretha Franklin, who we've already mentioned,
of course,
what a legend she is. Arthur Conley, who did Sweet Soul Music.
And in terms of artists outside of soul, you've got huge names like The Who, Tom Jones, The Doors, The Rolling Stones, Neil Diamond. So I think the 70s was such a good decade, wasn't it, for music?
Right, okay, then this is what we're all here for, the album itself. Unfortunately, we've still not managed to sort out a jingle for this section, so I'm just going to have to do one myself. The album! Let's get it on!
That song's not even on this album.
Right, so What's Going On by Marvin Gaye? It's the 11th studio album by the guy. How impressive is that?
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, he didn't have that long a career, really, if you think about it, because he died quite young, didn't he? So a lot of people regard this album as a concept album, with songs very much kind of segueing into each other, and very much there's a thread going through the album. And I guess thinking about concept albums, Jack, do you think they're becoming more and more rare?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's more about singles, isn't it, these days?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of get a song out, put it on Spotify.
Get it in the charts.
Yeah, on the charts. Get it on TikTok.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. Get that kind of that 5 minutes of fame, make as much money as possible, and that's it, really. So I think I would agree, these albums, these concept albums are becoming
it's something that's definitely dying out, although we actually have another concept album coming up later in this series. I won't give any spoilers away.
Okay.
Green Day. This album, it's from the perspective of a Vietnam War veteran who's returning home to a very different looking America. In fact, the inspiration came from Martin Gaye's brother, Frankie, who shared some of the troubling experiences that he had whilst at war, with this conversation sparking the ideas for the album.
And then the title of the album, What's Going On, really does sum up Gaye's thoughts at the time, as he's trying to make sense of a very kind of changing world, as we've just touched on. Despite being known for his smooth, romantic numbers, this album did take on a very different approach.
Yeah, I think he'd also been a bit frustrated with his time at Motown as well. He'd kind of got a bit bored doing the same sort of thing over and over again, wanted to kind of push himself a bit further. And also, at the time, he was becoming concerned with the state of society, so civil unrest and economic challenges facing the USA at the time. And he's been credited in promoting an awareness of environmental issues before this was really a thing, before it was in the public eye.
Yeah, because it's very now, isn't it, at the moment, like fear of global warming and all those kind of things. So really Marvin Gaye was a
Yeah, it wasn't something that was really talked about back then, especially in music. So he was kind of a bit of a
forward thinker, really, wasn't it? I guess.
Yeah.
We will talk about that later on when we talk about specific songs, and how much it's considered a landmark recording in popular culture.
Okay then, so the album itself, it was recorded between March and May of 1971 and released on May 21st of that year. Released on the Tamla label, which is a Motown subsidiary. The studio was, of course, the Hitsville studio in Detroit, produced by Marvin Gaye himself, and it reached number 1 in the US and number 6 in the UK. Now, interestingly, Berry Gordy, who was the head of the Motown record label, was initially against the release of What's Going On. He described it as the worst thing I've ever heard.
Strong words,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Strong words. I think he was maybe having a bit of a strop that Marvin Gaye was maybe going in a different direction.
Yeah, he believed it was too political and alienating of their audience. And it was only when Gaye went on a recording strike that Gordy backed down and agreed to put it out. So yeah, like you say, quite a big reaction there. Do you think he was right to have his reservations?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I guess it's a completely different album to his previous works, isn't it? And I guess it's always a risk for record labels to put something out that is different. Are you gonna alienate your audience if you release something that's different to what they're used to?
Yeah, it's very un-Motown, isn't it? Like most of their stuff is very kind of upbeat, celebratory. It's not kind of political. And,
or very serious, is it? So, I guess Berry Gordy was right to maybe be a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
So, the album cover itself, Jack, quite a simple but striking album cover, I think you'd agree. It's got the artist Marvin Gaye on the front, looking very contemplative and serious, looking up at the sky. The blue background is possibly a calming colour, contrasting some of the themes within the album.
Yeah,
what do you think of that?
Yeah. It could have just been a sunny day.
It could be that we're thinking into it.
Yeah, we might be overthinking it.
But I have to mention the outfit.
Yes.
That collar is something else.
So he's wearing a Mac raincoat, isn't he? But he's got the collar turned up. And it's just the biggest collar.
It is,
I've ever
it's
seen.
like Dracula-esque, isn't it? But it looks cool. He can certainly pull it off.
He's just so cool, isn't he?
Yeah. It's certainly a power stance, isn't it?
Absolutely.
He's got going on there.
Absolutely.
Okay, Jack, I suppose we should start talking about the album and the tracks on the album. So, first track, What's Going On? Quite a bit going on with the opener, I feel, Jack. The mixture of orchestral, soul and jazz, quite beautiful, really.
Strings especially really stand out on this song and like the album as a whole, really, I think.
Yeah, and on this track, the orchestral sounds really do kind of gradually build up, don't they? But they are subtle enough to allow Gaye's voice to really shine through.
Yeah, I'd say there's nothing in the opener that is loud or over the top. Very much a personal and intimate experience listening to the track, I'd say.
Definitely. It really sets the scene for the rest of the album.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think when we were talking in the week, Jack, about this album, we both made the same point, and a really good point, that it's an album you really have to sit down and listen to, isn't it?
It's not one of those albums that kind of comes out and slaps you in the face like a big guitar riff, is it? It's very subtle, very laid back.
Yeah.
It's one you have to kind of just sit down.
Know the distractions.
Yeah, no distractions.
Put your phone away.
Yeah.
Just sit down and enjoy the album. And we were thinking, weren't we, that there are other albums that are similar that you have to sit down and listen to. You know, first album that comes to my mind is kind of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, David Bowie.
Yeah, Sgt. Pepper.
The Wall, Pink Floyd.
Yeah, albums like that where they're... Yeah, you have to kind of put a bit of work in yourself, kind of really sort of get into it.
Yeah, you do. And I think that's a lost art, isn't it, really? That
absolutely,
people now sit down and just listen to music. It's not just background.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, song number 2, What's Happening, Brother? So this one opens with a soft, soulful melody that immediately sets a reflective mood. Marvin Gaye's voice on this track is filled with concern as he speaks to his brother, who has just returned from war. So it's his reflections on his brother coming back from the war, isn't it? And how he was affected. Yeah. Kind of goes back to that inspiration that gave him the thoughts to kind of do this album in the first place, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And we mentioned this before, haven't we? But the situation in society at the time for a lot of these veterans wasn't the easiest. This feeling of isolation, this disillusionment of what it means to be American, and the disconnect that they felt when they did return from Vietnam.
Yeah, and then just to talk about his voice again on this song, it manages to feel like incredibly soft, but still be full of depth and emotion. Really showcases his skill as a storyteller.
And the orchestral on this song is still very subtle, and it just kind of perfectly complement the somber, introspective tone that creates quite a haunting atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And as we progress through this album, it's clear that the song's message remains incredibly relevant even in 2025, with the ongoing conflicts around the world, the question, war is hell, when will it end? That still resonates so deeply. It's
very politically charged, isn't it? And that's what makes it so powerful, and how, again, as Jack just said, how relevant this song is and its lyrics are in 2025. So track 3, Flying High in the Friendly Sky. Now, Lyrically, there is a clear kind of theme when it comes to this song. I'm not sure if you kind of noticed, Jack, this idea of kind of flying high. It's clearly a reference to drug taking, is it, and kind of and being high. And at the time, obviously, drug taking in the 60s and 70s in America was rife, particularly in young people. And again, it was an escape, wasn't it, from some of the challenges in society at the time.
Yeah, and as this song progresses, it builds in intensity, which mirrors the chaos of that addiction cycle that so many people struggle to escape from. So then, we move on to track number 4, which is Save the Children.
Yeah, I don't think you're not as much of a fan, are you, of this one?
I wasn't a big fan, to be honest. Never really kind of grabbed my kind of attention. It's a lot slower, isn't it?
It is. It takes a while to get into, I think. I think it did build on me. It did become one of my favourites. It wasn't one of my favourites to
maybe I was just too impatient. I don't know.
Maybe you are. Yeah, maybe you just want to get to the end of the album.
I gave it a listen. I was like, nah,
skip that. But it is a very powerful song, and I mean, it's a song that kind of hints at compassion and our responsibility to look after young people and children in society. And again, another song that really talks to where we are in society. As a person that works in education. It's something that I think government should really stand up and listen to.
Yeah, it really does strike me that the themes that are talked about in this album, that it's over 50 years old now, but they're still just as relevant today, aren't they?
100%. And childhood is difficult, isn't it? And I think we should, protect children as much as possible. And I don't think you're a child for very long, are you, in this society?
So musically for this song, it's a lot slower, which is a deliberate move. You've got the gentle percussion, the soft horn and the strings, which provide a somber and thought-provoking atmosphere. And like previous tracks, the orchestral is so delicate and not overpowering, allowing Gaye's fantastic voice to shine through, along with the message he's trying to portray. And just to touch on his voice, I think throughout the whole album, he's really on top form, isn't he? Like, the voice is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it makes you want to listen, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes you want to listen to what he's actually trying to say, and maybe that's this was a deliberate move away from that Motown where lyrically maybe that's not the focus. There's more of a musical focus around the artist, whereas this, it is just about making the music as minimal as possible in order to really put Gaye's voice in it's front and centre.
This is probably an obvious thing to say, but it's soulful, isn't it? It's he's putting his soul into these tracks. It's his life. It's his heart.
And now we see it's his legacy, don't we?
Yeah,
we really see that this album is his legacy.
Absolutely, yeah.
So going into track 5, God Is Love. Very short song, Jack. Only 1 minute and 40 seconds in length.
Yeah.
Another very orchestral track, string heavy this time. And this song really serves as a bit of a pivot, really, from the first 4 songs that are a little bit more introspective, and a song that celebrates, for me, joy, faith, and love. I think there's a particularly poignant part in within the lyrics itself where it talks about love your mother, love your father, and I think looking into this album and this track in particular, that Gaye had quite a difficult relationship with his father. And
so, God Is Love then blends into track 6, which is Mercy, Mercy Me, The Ecology. This is another blend of soulful melodies and social commentary. Gaye sings of an environment in turmoil, nature in decline due to the neglects we have shown on the planet. An example of the lyrics are, where did all the blue skies go? Oil wasted on the oceans and upon our seas, fish full of mercury. And again, we've mentioned this a few times, Albert. It's another song that gives a message that's still so accurate today. Global warming is still a big issue, probably a bigger issue than it was then. But the song itself, nice kind of soulful number, lovely kind of strings in there as well. And it's probably my second favourite track on the album. It is a very, very nice track, and it's amazing how this album was completely different to previous albums, and how in tune he is with society and how much society was changing. He wasn't just a voice that was thrown up in stage. He actually had a mind of his own and his own thoughts, and this album really shows that. I think this is a really powerful song, probably the most powerful song. Absolutely,
on the album.
This is the song that was covered by The Strokes. Do we have a preference which song we prefer? I do love this original one, to be honest. The Strokes one is a really good song.
I think the Strokes one takes away some of the kind of serious nature of the song, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think the only person that can sing this song is Marvin Gaye because of the voice that he has.
100%, yeah.
Whereas the Strokes version, as good as it is, it does take away some of the serious nature of this song. So, track 7.
Yeah, right on. So the first note I wrote down on this one was jazz flute.
In capital letters.
Yeah.
Jazz flute.
Yeah, so there's a flute in this song which, when I listen to it, just makes me think of Ron Burgundy in Anchorman, where he's going around that nightclub and he's playing the flute to everyone.
Yeah, great reference. Because it's a 7.5 minute jam session, isn't it?
Yeah.
This track, and I just think, can you imagine seeing this track being played live?
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, it would.
Just imagine yourself some dark, smoky club somewhere,
and then this wall of noise just kind of erupts. Same themes in this song, the ideas of peace and love, and the idea that if people are just good to each other, then so is the world. The world's a nice place to be if people are kind to one another.
Yeah, I really like the piano in this as well. Some really nice little grooves going on in there. Great sort of chill vibes, I found.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed this song. And then, track 8, Holy Holy. Kind of a similar message to the previous song, but with more of a religious feel. Had a very religious upbringing, so I think this kind of brings his religious kind of thoughts and feelings to the foreground in this song.
Because soul music, I guess, looking at the origins of soul music, there was very much a religious aspect to it, wasn't it? Because I guess it was a kind of active resistance, wasn't it? Soul music against racial inequality and things like that.
Kind of grew out of like the gospel.
Yeah, it did.
As well, didn't it? As well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of got that kind of soul music in general's kind of always got that kind of religious kind of element to it. Yeah, which kind of comes through on this song.
Yeah.
Looking into this song, I saw that it was it's been covered by a lot of people actually, but John Legend did a cover of this back in 2010, and it kind of got me thinking, like, in the sort of modern age, are there any kind of artists that we can think of that kind of could be a modern day equivalent to Marvin Gaye?
In terms of soul music?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I guess artists maybe like Amy Winehouse, Lauryn Hill, Mary J. Blige, perhaps.
I thought maybe Frank Ocean as well.
Yeah, that's a good show.
His Channel Orange album.
Yep.
Got some real Marvin Gaye vibes to it. Childish Gambino.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe. Awaken My Love is one of his albums, which has a similar message to what's going on.
Okay. And Childish Gambino is very... I always remember the video to the song This Is America.
Oh, yeah.
That's a very kind of politically charged music video. So, I like the similarity there.
Nice. And then the final song on the album is Inner City Blues, Make Me Wanna Holler, a song that comments on the downtrodden neighbourhoods and bleak economic fortunes of inner city America and the emotional effects these have on its inhabitants. An example lyric: crime is increasing, trigger-happy policing, panic is spreading, God knows where we're heading. Kind of a groovy, funky feel to this song, a bit more up-tempo. Yeah,
it's certainly one of the more up-tempo songs on the album, and for it to end on this, again, such a strong song to end on.
Yeah, for me, one of my favourites, I think, on this album. A really strong way to finish, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. And referring again to more themes and themes that are still relevant in 2025. So, yeah, really a really powerful track.
So those are our thoughts on what's going on, but what did other people say about it? So Vince Aletti, who reviewed this album for Rolling Stone back in 1971, said, "There are very few performers who could carry a project like this off. I've always admired Marvin Gaye, but I didn't expect that he would be one of them. Guess I seriously underestimated him. It won't happen again."
Yeah, and Tom Ewing in The Guardian in June 2011, so revisiting the album, so that Gaye simply understood that the angry, confused feelings of the early 70s needed a different kind of music. Even if the questing drift of what's going on didn't sound like a hit, it would resonate. And this record really helped kick off a golden era, a half-decade when soul was the most sophisticated and emotionally wide-ranging pop music in the world. So, Jack, final thoughts then on this album? It's asking that question, is what would Marvin Gaye think about the world if he was still around today?
Yeah, so it's an album that urges us to abandon war, care for the environment and look after each other. Just be better people, really. We live in a world that has in many ways gotten worse, you could say. We've had the rise of right-wing ideologies, global conflicts, police brutality.
Yeah, and I think, this album is over 50 years old now, and it does seem that we still have quite a lot to learn. And on a more lighter note, Jack, because I think this is a record that every collector needs to have in their collection. It's a staple, isn't it? And I did try and buy this album, but it's incredibly expensive on vinyl. I think I was looking at about £40 or £50.
Wow!
But I guess that just shows that everybody wants this album because it is such a classic.
Yeah, it's the one that everyone's after, isn't it?
Yeah,
But,
definitely.
Save up the pennies and you'll get.
I'll
there
save
one
up my
day.
pocket money.
So for me personally, this was my first time listening to this album. I knew Marvin Gaye from like the big hits and things like that, but I never sort of sat down and listened to like a whole album of his. So a lot of these songs were new to me, and it's been a real kind of eye opener for me. And I've really kind of learned a lot about Marvin Gaye and his music and his life really. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I can see you get a bit emotional there, Jack. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I've always known of this album. I've always been a fan of this album, but I think after researching the album in more depth, I've really found a new love for it, and I'm hearing things that I've never heard before, and yeah, this is why it is an absolute classic and such a special album.
Yeah. So I think that just about wraps it up for episode 2 of One More Music Pod. In our next episode, we're going to be looking at Park Life by Blur, a Britpop classic.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, very different to this week's episode.
Yeah, very different. And I'm a big fan of like Britpop music, so I'm really looking forward to that one.
Quick question though, Jack.
Yeah.
Blur Oasis.
Well, you'll have to listen in next time to find out.
Teaser.
And also, ahead of the next episode, it's your turn, Adam, to find us a link.
Okay.
So we want to know what links What's Going On by Marvin Gaye to Park Life by Blur.
Okay, I'll see
what
I can come up with. So you've heard our thoughts on the album, What's Going On. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please get in touch. You can find us on Instagram at onemoremusicpod, or drop us an email at onemoremusicpod@gmail.com.
And in the meantime, my name's Jack.
My name's Adam.
And we'll catch you again soon.
See ya.